Greetings, friends! Welcome back to a very special episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. Today, a very special episode. I will be joined by our dear friend, writer-director Josh Lobo, as we went to the theater and were blown away by the new horror movie Barbarian. If you haven't seen it yet, this episode will be chock full of spoilers, all the spoilers. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, get your ass out to the theater, man. You'll thank us later. It is a hell of a good time. Make sure you find a theater with a big crowd. That will increase your experience. And coming from me, who despises a large theater, you know that that's the truth. Guys, before we get started today, a little business. Please take a second, leave a rating and review wherever you find the show. Please join us over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/filmalchemistpodcast. We have an exclusive library over there. You get a vote on the movies you want to hear, commentaries, miniseries, all kinds of great stuff over there. We greatly appreciate the support. So if you guys are supporting us, thank you. If you're about to, thank you as well. You can subscribe to the YouTube. That's Film Alchemist. If you want to see these faces, you can also email the show filmalchemistpod@gmail.com and find us on all the socials you're on, where we would greatly appreciate it if you would invite your friends and share the episodes and all that good stuff. All right, enough of that business. You guys are here for some Barbarian madness. This movie has come out and seemingly has lit all of us on fire, right? We are loving this movie. The reaction has been massive. I think this is going to be one of those cult classic movies. I know that gets bandied about a lot. I think this one truly will, and I think the word of mouth is going to bring hopefully more and more people into this theater. Zach Krieger delivered an absolute hilarious nightmare. Is that the proper way to say it? It's so much fun, and the fear is palpable. It's a great experience. So, guys, I will let you know up front again, spoilers for everything. We talk about every element of this movie, and you absolutely do not want that spoiled before you see this. So if you haven't seen it, I would recommend waiting until you do and then come back and join us. Josh is one of our dear friends, man. We love Josh Lobo, writer-director of I Trapped the Devil. We haven't talked to him in a while, so you guys will hear in this episode, not only do we talk about Barbarian, but we talk about a lot of this year's horror movies, too. We talk a lot about our experiences going to see this and other movies. So we do have some derivations from the source of Barbarian. But it was such a fun conversation, man. We love Josh. He is so passionate about movies, man. Every time we talk, we just get all jazzed up, and it leads us to talk about a lot of stuff. So we have a great conversation about Barbarian and a lot of this year's other horror movies. So I hope you guys enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Josh is an absolute A+ human being, and we were stoked to have him back. Speaking of, Josh will also be joining us for our October Mega Marathon, which is looming large. We are putting in a ton of work to complete this year's marathon. You guys know the deal. 31 days, 31 pods. Every day in October, a brand new horror movie for you to digest. We're gathering our guest up right now, filling out the list. So I hopefully within the next week or two, we'll have a complete list and schedule of all the movies coming out in October. Where you will hear Josh. We're going to cover 2 franchises. We got a lot of great stuff coming in October. Again, if you want to make sure you get the new pod every single day of October, you got to go over to Patreon. Patreon.com/filmalchemistpod is a couple of those are going to be our Patreon exclusives that our friends over there voted on to choose the 2 movies they wanted. One of them is a recommendation from a patron. That's going to be Communion with Christopher Walken. And we will be doing a feature-length commentary on 13 Ghosts. So a lot of fun stuff to come, but for now, enjoy our long, expansive conversation on Barbarian and a lot of this year's other fun horror movies. Thanks again to Josh Lobo, one of the greats. Go find I Trapped the Devil. You will thank us later. Enjoy!
I actually want people to hear this. I'm not embarrassed at all about this, but like on my list of films that are my favorite of the year, like the first one is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I just like loved. I think.
Okay, so it's
so much fun.
I fucking love that movie. I was actually. I don't know what everyone is complaining about because I'm like, have you seen the other Texas Chainsaw sequels? And it was just exactly what I wanted. It was just a short fucking And I was like, it's the only one with an actual chainsaw massacre in Texas.
Yeah.
I was like, it was just fucking great. I love that movie too. I'm with you.
It's so brutal, and it's beautiful. The cinematography is beautiful.
Surprisingly
and it's just
so,
like, yeah, and like it's got like weight, and I know one of the producers, and like the day it came out, he was like, I just don't think that like people understand that that they just like don't understand that like we wanted you to hate these people so that you cheer when Leatherface is like tearing them apart.
Yeah.
Which is like, you know, it's like, yeah, dude, like kill all those fuckers. When there's two moments, one where he throws the hammer and throws the girl down to the floorboards.
Oh fuck, dude, yeah, that was wild. When he gets that bitch at the end, that like really actually surprised me.
he like cuts like Sally or whatever. He like cuts her in half, and then she like continues to shoot the gun, and you're just like, what is going on?
Yeah,
but it's so brutal and so much fun.
That's a good point though, because I think part of what is happening in the horror community is we're just finding things to be upset about. Because we are in such a golden age of horror movies.
Yeah,
like even Shudder, like in the last like 3 months, right? And I think Shudder originals are usually about 50-50, right? Like a couple of them are really bad, a couple of them are really good. Their last like 6 have been unbelievable. And you're just
Shudder.
like, we have so much fucking good horror movies now that I think it's just like, I don't know what happened. Like, you know, it's like when, you know, punk rock became pop punk and everyone fucking hated on it. It's like, maybe it's like now it's so cool that like we're looking for something to, but I'm like, I feel like almost every week I find an amazing new horror movie to watch.
I don't watch a lot of Shudder, which is actually, I don't actually have Shudder.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I know what you're getting for Christmas.
I know. I had it for a long time, and then I just never dive into like the streaming sites.
Yeah.
Like I can it's funny we talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre because it's that and Prey are the only times where I've like gone to Netflix or Hulu the day something came out and was like, I have to watch this now.
Yeah.
But normally I'll just be like, oh God, I have to see Don't Look Up. And then I just will forget about it and never watch it.
Right.
It's funny. It's like most of the Netflix original movies I've seen because I bought the Criterions of them. Like
you're buying like Roma. I need a Roma disc. You know
well, I bought like The Irishman, and then I like watched it for the first time on Blu-ray. It was like, God, just like the Lord intended, like not on fucking Netflix.
Well, speaking of what the Lord intended, man, I know you must have been stoked that Barbarian had a theatrical release.
Yes.
This is one of me and you's like friendship arguments, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm all like, I go to the movies all the time, right? I go to the movies a lot. But also, if I can just wake up and watch a movie in my boxers with coffee, that's also equally awesome. Give the people freedom. That's what I'm.
You talk shit on the theater so much, which is hilarious because I see you. You fucking log things on Letterboxd that were only out in theaters like a week. Yeah, so it's like you. I pretty much only watch like genuinely like most of my free time is spent not watching movies. As someone who loves movies. So I go to the movies. For me, it's like church. I go to the movies. I sit down. I leave fucking Instagram and Twitter alone and like my emails, and then I just click in.
The big advantage. I will give you that. I do a lot of like my walking. I get my exercises in while I watch sometimes. Right, I'm cooking and shit.
Yeah.
So like it's not always ideal. But if a movie's good enough, you put all your shit down and watch. But see, this is the thing. I've got to this point where it's. Other theater goers are just so fucking obnoxious. So, like, even Barbarian, right? Yeah. I had this row of just, like, fucking stoned teenagers behind me. And this is a horror movie thing. So it's always such a younger audience who's just there to, like, get handjobs and shit. They don't care what tongues.
Always. It's always.
And I was that guy, dude. I get it. But they were so stoned. And just watching them just actively hate this movie as it was unfurling just made me really sad. Because I was like, guys, this is, like, a fucking blast of a movie. But this girl just kept being like, what's going on? Facts. And I was like, what is happening? Like, why are you talking in the middle of the movie? You know what I mean? Just on their phones, like they're so baffled by what they're seeing. But yeah, man. So I love the theater. I hate other theater goers for the most part.
Totally. And the thing is, it really is like horror movies in general. Because like I'll see shit all the time. I saw Bullet Train in a packed theater and nobody spoke the entire movie. Because it's like,
Yeah.
it's a younger thing. I had a really like I had like a big moment of anxiety earlier this year. Like I saw Black Phone,
Yeah.
and like people, that movie like connected. It
Yeah.
really did. And it was like a week after it came out. We went to the theater, and the theater had sold out.
Mhm.
And so the theater is like wall to wall teenagers, and it's like that fucking scene in Gremlins where they're all vibrating and like watching Snow White, and like me.
Yeah.
Me and my girlfriend and her little brother, who have like trained to be like a cinema connoisseur. He's 17. He's like
Right.
17, and he's seen like, yeah, I mean, you know what I mean. He'll like get excited. He like will get
He's watching
excited
the
to
good.
go.
He's not there for the hand job. He's there for the work, the craft.
He like likes the Criterion Collection
Yeah.
announcements every month. So like
Hell yeah.
so we're all sitting in this row, and just like all like the pit of my stomach is just ruined because I'm like, this movie is going to be a horrible experience. And like the second the movie started, there was not one peep
Yeah.
from any of them, which
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah.
But with Barbarian, like I feel like this is maybe not stoned teenagers, but like my experience was there was a bunch of people in the theater, and everyone was freaking out laughing the whole time. I mean, I was freaking out laughing the
So
whole
much.
time.
I will
So
say I was jealous because I was like, what a wasted high on those kids. Because I was like, I'm always so high. I was like, the fact that I saw Barbarian for the first time not stoned made me actually mad when I left. But yeah, I will say this. So you had told me you loved it, right? It was on my list because
yeah,
everyone on Twitter's like, this movie's the fucking best. Go see it. Don't look anything up. I legitimately never even saw a trailer. I had
really,
no fucking idea what was happening. I knew it was something to do with an Air BnB, right?
yeah.
And I read a lot of scripts and shit, and like there's something in the water. A lot of people are doing like the overbooked Airbnbs. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, I think I have like a notion of what this film will be. And it was for like a brief window.
Yeah.
And then all hell breaks loose. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about right off the bat, because one of the things, this is the thing, I love this movie so much that by the end I wanted even more from it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying this is a critique, but I felt like they left some shit on the table, right, as it were. What did you make of the movie resetting 3 times to different timelines and characters?
I and so like, yeah, you're warning people at the top that we're just going right in. We're just
I will do
about,
a full spoiler alert before we start.
okay. We're not even we're just jumping right in.
We're fucking
No,
going.
I loved it. I think what I liked about it so much was that just like every 10 minutes I like wasn't sure of the movie that I was watching. And I think I think there's like the critical part of me that could be like, that's messy. It's disjointed. There's a lot, but like the execution of it, for me anyways,
So
was
good.
so good that like all of these, every time the movie shifted, I was like, yeah, let's do this. Let's just keep going. And
Yeah.
I just found it like, I was never like confused or like,
No.
why are we doing this? I just kept wanting to see the story evolve, and I wanted to see where it goes, because it's just like it just kept getting weirder and weirder. And what I think about that, for me, this was the opposite of Men earlier this year, where like Men, I just felt like devolved into like craziness that had no real rhyme or reason. But it was like that movie was like
We tried desperately on an episode to sort through what we thought about it. I still don't know if I've ever settled on it.
It's just like a really joyless experience, which like is not like as a fan, as like a huge fan of Alex Garland. Like I'm not like, it just wasn't fun. It was pretentious and whatever. And I normally like pretentious movies.
I gotta say, I fucking loved Men. I love real weird head scratchers. Like that's like a real sweet spot for me. So it kind of hit right where I liked.
That's for me what this was, because this evolved the same way Men does. So the end is just like complete batshit insanity, but it's so fun and it's so like joyous that by the end I'm just like, I'm screaming. I'm like throw her off of the water tower. Like,
well, this isn't like Men, right? Where it's obscuring what it's doing. This is kind of like a super version of Castle Freak, I think, right? Where it's just this amazing premise and like we're just gonna have fun with it. I think the weird thing that hit me, right, and I don't know if other audience members will think this, right, but I was watching it and I was so fucking in tune with like the first 15 minutes of that movie. I mean, it is just brilliant work, right? The tension
Yeah.
is high. The
Yeah.
dread is high. You're like, don't go in that fucking house with that guy. You
Yeah.
know, and probably everyone's savvy enough, like, they're not going to put Pennywise Bill Skarsgård in the movie and have him be the villain right away. But still, you're like, maybe. You feel unsure and unsafe at every moment of the film, right? And so I was loving that. And when she wakes up in the night and it's going great, even when she wakes up the next day in sunlight, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, no, stay in there. I just wanted them to stay in that house and do what they were doing at the start.
Yeah.
And then they come back and it you know, somewhat reboots, and then we get the basement and it's back on track, right? But I even thought leaving that day to go talk to the filmmaker, I was like, why are we leaving? Stay here. And then it really was a double whammy, right? So I fucking loved when she gets in the basement. That fucking sequence is just amazing, right? We see this dirty fuck room and you go down into this infinite basement with like these dog kids. You're like, what the fuck? And then the monstrosity woman runs out of the thing and it cuts to black. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, now we're just doing the descent for like an hour. Yeah. And I think this is the tyranny of not knowing what I was expecting, right? Like I walked in with no information except for night vision footage of people being scared.
Yeah.
So when she cracks his fucking head open, I expected like a truly terrifying run for an hour, right? That was going to like have me scratching my seats. Yeah. Instead, we reload and just get this excellent fucking comedy, right? Yeah. So I think a lot of it for me as I've stepped away is just processing the different tones and jumps of the movie. But that didn't bother you at all as you were watching it?
No, and purely because I think it's so much fun. Like the movie is so much.
It definitely is, yeah.
Fun. And I think that
I took my mom and she was like, I really liked it. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was fucking stunned. My mom loved it.
It's so weird. You know, we were talking earlier about how about Nope and how that movie, it seems like that movie didn't connect for people at all, which I love Nope. I think it's crazy, but like people didn't. I've seen everyone I know is going rabid about this movie. Again, like I took, my theater didn't get it, oddly. And so I had to drive for 2 hours to go see it. And, I took my girlfriend and her little brother, and he just messaged me on Thursday, and he messaged me yesterday to say that he had driven up there by himself again to go watch it again.
Fuck yeah, dude, I love that. I think the last time I've done that, I think I did it twice ever, and these are weird movies, but when I saw The Ring in college, I saw it at like the 7:00 show, and I watched Gore Verbinski's remake of The Ring, right? And I was like, holy fuck, this is the best horror movie I've ever seen. And I drove 2 hours to where my girlfriend went to college and made her go to the midnight with me and spent the whole movie just watching her watch the movie. Like, you got to know how great this is. And then weirdly, I did the same thing when I saw Frozen. I took my mom to see Frozen. I'm like weeping in the theater. I don't know what was going on in my life. But the next morning I woke my wife up and I'm like, we got to go to the first show at the fucking El Capitan on Hollywood and like sing along with Frozen. I don't know. That's the only 2 times I've ever done it. Weird, but I love when people do that, man. I love that.
And it's a really fun ride, and I think I think like you said, that first act is such like a successsul horror movie, and it gives you exactly what you want. It's terrifying. It mines every piece of tension. You know, the red flags are doing it, and I think it really does everything that you could do with that hook, and it does that. And then the movie's intelligent enough and the writing is intelligent enough to know that, okay, cool, you did that. Now it's going to start to get stale. So let's shift gears and give you something else, which still, like by the end of Justin Long's, when Justin Long is back in the hole, like it's still scary, but I don't know if you noticed, they're shooting on a lot wider lenses. Like the terror moments are done in like a kookier way. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's feeding you sort of the same shtick as the first act, but like in a much more like stylized, much more kind of zany way, which is like preparing you for that third act, which is just like, I
don't even want to say it started to feel like a parody of what I was expecting, because that sounds insulting, right? But it did feel, I could feel them playing around with my expectations, right? Yeah. It's kind of that old theory of, storytelling, right? It's like, don't let them out of the pressure cooker, right? Constantly build till the end and then release, right? And this movie just eschews that. And it kind of felt like they had like this brilliant short film. And like, how do we fucking get this thing longer? And I would say that, again, that's not a critique, right? I think the writing is so good, it doesn't feel like it was just sloppily put together to get to, feature length. But it kind of reset my brain, right? And it took me a couple days to process it. But then again, like you said, Justin Long is just a fucking lightning bolt in the middle of the movie. And it was just so fun. Everyone in the theater was loving that bit, right?
Yes.
Because people were a little unsure, it felt like. And then Justin Long came in. And by the time he's doing the fucking tape measure square foot thing, like in the murder rooms, people were fucking losing their shit in the theater. I was fucking dying laughing.
I was going to develop an ulcer. Like, I was laughing so hard. And everyone around me, and it just like really, it's just like one of those like horror stories in a theater, like you say, where I was full belly cackling, but everyone else
fucking
was
Cape
too.
Fearing, De Niro, and Cape Fearing.
it feels so unfair for Georgina Campbell. I think that's her name. Don't quote me on that. The lead actress. Mm-hmm. Because she's phenomenal in the movie. She's so good, and she's so good at like playing everything very straight. But like, she is playing the horror character, and she's really like, I mean, she really amps up the tension. She's a very intelligently written character. But like the second Justin Long comes in there, just the things that he does, like that moment just that entire sequence just stands out so clearly to me, because it is like, I keep, he's like everyone's like problematic fave. Like he's such like a shitty, despicable character. And I've seen people, tweet about how, like, I hate this fucking guy. But like, I literally did not want to stop watching him. I thought it was so entertaining. And I don't know what that says about me. But it like, the second he starts measuring, like tape measuring for square footage.
Amazing. They make you hate him so much, right? And then when he's in the bar with Zach Krieger, right? The director who plays his buddy.
God.
And they're sitting there chatting, right? And he's like, well, she said no at first, but you're like, oh, okay. But this is something, I used to be a writer for Thousand Ways to Die. I'm sure our listeners have heard that multiple times. But that was kind of one of the like only rules of the show, right? Is that you can only kill unlikable characters. So like no one wants to watch 1,000 Ways to Die where the nice mom makes her kids food, sews up their soccer uniform so they can go out and have a game, right? She's carrying a baby and then a fire hydrant blows up and lands on her head and she dies. People will feel bad and turn that off. So it got to the point where by like the 6th season, they're like, yeah, you can't kill any more frat guys. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be more creative and like despicable characters. So I think in a horror movie, seeing a guy who's as shitty as Justin Long and clearly like a rapist and whatever, I think part of the fun of that is he gets to act even worse. And you're like, well, that's fine because I know you're going to get it on the back end.
But he's so charismatic.
That's not off-putting. Yeah, I mean, he still is, right? But that's like his fucking snake oil salesman thing.
Yeah.
Right? Where you can see him like pawning off the allegations and then you're like, oh, we know, but he might still get away with it because he's this charming fucking, swindler. But yeah.
And the thing is, like, I mean, that character is, despicable. But like everything he does is so funny that like, for me, I had a hard time hating him because I'm just like, because Justin Long is such a good actor, And which I think it's a testament to him as a performer.
He's fucking incredible, man. Like everything he's in, he's A+.
And that he'd take material like this, I think it would be off-putting. I mean, his character, doesn't exactly have like a lot of redemption here, and sort of.
It's like the full way Tusk, because it's a similar journey in that movie. Yeah. But this one, he's like not just like a douche cheating podcaster. This one, he's like a full-on like fucking criminal. Yeah. But yeah, man, I think that's like the nice thing about casting someone like Justin Long is he has this like deep reservoir of love from all of us.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, we can wade into these, murkier waters. Dude, he was fucking great, man.
Yeah, there's just so much. And it's so interesting. I think a lot about it. I think a lot about sort of like how unlikable people can be and how immediate, because like, I mean, I just see people talking about Justin Long, how unlikable characters can be and still like come out as people's like favorite characters, which is kind of a fucked up thing. But like I said, I mean, like the problematic fave, it's like on social media, I just all day I see fucking memes about Homelander from, The Boys.
Walter White, Soprano, right? There's like a million of these terrible fucking anti-heroes or whatever.
but people just love them. People just love
Yeah.
them, which I don't know what it says about, that says about
Because
society.
characters who behave really badly generate
Yeah.
really interesting conflicts, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be around those fucking people in real life, but if you can watch them through the safety of a screen and a narrative,
Yeah.
then you can fucking have more fun with it. And usually they end up getting theirs, right? So that's kind of the day that eventually Homelander gets his fucking head twisted off, the audience is going to love that fucking moment too, because we've seen him be this fucking monster. So Justin Long goes down, he's measuring his square footage, right? He's fucking returned to Detroit. And he falls into the trap, right? Because see, this is the thing. I thought, again, they were resetting me for this Descent-style horror movie when he's down in the fucking dungeon and he gets put in the pit and they do this fucking just hideous, like this fucking nightmare baby bottle scene.
Dude, no.
It's so fucking bizarre.
The movie is on, like, it.
Yeah.
And it's just like everyone around you is just like, what the fuck? The second she just, because before you see the bottle, he just looks at her and she's like, she wants you to be her baby.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck? And then the bottle comes down.
Yeah.
And it just,
and then she sucks on it, dude. That's what I'm saying. I'm worried those, like, poor teenagers are never going to recover from seeing this movie because they were so stoned. I don't know what that's going to do when it seeps in. But that was just fucking awesome, dude. Because they had that weird, like, lactation video going, right? And then this fucking monstrosity woman, right, who has, like, superhuman powers and is this fucking gnarled monster, just wants to be this mommy. When she fucking drags Justin Long back in the room and is just cramming her tit in his mouth. I mean, it was just fucking amazing. That is so fucking unhinged and fun to watch. And again, I don't know what that says about me. That's kind of how you were saying. I was like, I don't know why, but I was just sitting there with this big fucking smile on my face. Like,
I mean,
God,
genuinely, it is the most insane movie I've seen in a theater. I mean, I know people keep saying Malignant. I think Malignant.
I think this is way more strange than Malignant's a pretty straight shooter, right? Except for the reveal.
Yeah,
like, other than that, it's a pretty straight down the line murder mystery.
Yeah, and then the ending of *Malignant* is crazy, and I think that movie, I love it. I think it's a great movie, but like it's not like weird. I think it's wild. Like the killing scene is wild. That's crazy. This one is weird, and so I know a producer on this movie, and when the trailer came out, I just saw that his name was on the poster, and so I kind of gave him a call and we talked about it, and. I was just like, so what is this about? And he's like, I'm not going to tell you. Like, you just go watch the movie. You just go watch the movie.
Yeah.
And he was just telling me, he's like, yeah, it's really crazy. He's like, it's really strange. And he had just talked a lot about how Disney loved it and that's it was
the strangest part to me,
yeah.
Man. Like, the fact that this is in the Disney family of films is fucking bizarre. These are weird times we're living in.
Well, Disney can hide behind the Fox logo, which is great. You know what I mean? And they can put stuff out like this. But
it's a good thing to see that they're still taking shots at shit like this, right? Because that was the fear, is that once they bought everyone in town, we would never get a movie like this ever again. So that is a refreshing thing to see.
Yeah, I kind of think that was sort of the way that it was going to go too. But I mean, they're taking a chance on stuff, and there's Searchlight's still cranking out things. But like I think that they are smart enough to see when something is like this crowd pleasing. Mm-hmm. Like this movie is really wild, and and because it's wild in a fun way. Like with a crowd was like the best experience ever. I mean, Twitter is just exploding with this.
Yeah.
Like.
Me and you, while we differ on theatrical value, I would say this is a movie I would absolutely... Like, people are like, you have to see Top Gun Maverick in IMAX. And I saw it and I was like, nah, that did nothing for me. Right?
Oh, I love
this
Top
one.
Gun, yeah.
I mean, it was fine. It was just like the same fucking thing again. They just said Maverick doesn't have to learn a lesson. I was like, it's fun. I get it. Fucking spaceships and whatever running around in the snow is fun. Like, fine. This one is the one movie I've seen all year where I'm like, this one absolutely you should see in the most crowded theater you can see.
Yeah.
This is probably like the one movie I've seen in like years, I would say that about.
Malignant,
and I think it's that
too.
See, Malignant I watched on HBO was fine, man. Me and a couple buddies watched it was fine.
I watched Malignant in a theater and with like quite a few people, and that was still in the Warner, or the HBO was still like just putting everything day and date. And like it was a lot of teenagers. And when that movie starts like kicking in, dude, those teenagers just had no fucking idea what was going on. And it was
I mean, none of us did. But I'm
well, they were
saying
just like, what?
like there are weird movies too that you're like, you should see. Like I saw Lamb in theaters, and you're like, that is by far the strangest movie I've seen in years. Like that is truly the strangest fucking film of my year, right? Like by a lot. Again, I took my mom and her husband to it, and that was fucking like, I'm so sorry. Like this, I should have known this would not be your fucking jam, right? Just afterwards having drinks, debating on if that sheep was having an orgasm. I'm like, this is just not how I thought the night was going to go.
Can
but
I
that
make a
movie
quick
was
aside?
strange. Yeah.
just a quick one. So I went to Paris last year, and on the way back, like I was catching up on stuff, and so like I had a triple feature of like
Did
Lamb.
you watch that shit on a plane?
I did on an iPad.
What the fuck? Oh my.
Yeah. So I watched Lamb, Okja, and The War with Grandpa for some
Hell
reason.
Yeah.
Which
the other two, you're like, those are pretty sensible. You don't want someone looking over and be like, is that guy fucking a sheep? Like, what the fuck?
I have like a stack of Criterion movies that I've probably paid like $300 for that I have not even opened.
Yeah.
But like as like a bit, I put War with Grandpa on and then just like watched the whole movie and then like logged on Letterboxd. Like, yeah, this
joke's
is good,
on you, my friend.
Yeah.
No, I did that
Lamb.
once. We were on our way to Hawaii, and I fucking watched the second 300 movie. Because I was like, I'm fucking scared as shit when I fly. And my wife was pregnant, so she's like, you can't do your normal. Normally, I take 3 or 4 Tylenol PM, and I'm like a fucking corpse. You know, because anytime I hit a bump, or if anyone opens the window, I'm like having a for real panic attack. But she's like, you can't do that. I'm pregnant. What if we got to bust a move? I'm like, I can't fucking fly. I don't know what I can do. So anyways, I couldn't do it. So I was like, I need something as mind-numbing as possible. I watched the second 300 movie, and Ava Green sashaying around with her tits out, like fucking this guy. And I looked back, and this lady was so hardcore judging me. But yeah, Lamb is weird, but did not benefit from having more people in the theater, because it's not necessarily fun weird. This is fun weird. Yeah. And so I think this is the exact kind of movie, right? Like you mentioned Bullet Train and all that other shit. I can watch that at home mostly, right?
Totally.
For me, the reason to really go to the theater, I go anyways because it's just ingrained in my behavior. But I like the ones where the crowd is so unset. Like when I saw Hereditary in theaters, right?
Yeah.
And people were like freaking the fuck out. They couldn't follow what they were putting down. And there's just this uncomfortable energy in the theater. And I was like, that's what I want from a movie I see theatrically, right? And I think this one is just such a fucking wonderful theater experience.
It's so interesting because at the end as the movie ended, we went out and we were talking about it amongst our group, and we were just talking about how they like Fox had put this in theaters over like Prey, which like I was not hot on Prey. I did not like it really
I
at all.
fucking love Prey.
Okay, yeah,
I thought it was awesome.
But I think Prey was a movie that would opening weekend, it would, make $30 million, and then it would probably steep decline. Which I guess I don't know. That sounds like that's what's happened on Hulu. But like for me, this is something where I like the word of mouth. I think this is going to make a lot of money purely because people are talking about it. And I've seen people nonstop talking about it, and it made like $10 million, but like, if it's like a $5 million movie or something like that,
hell yeah,
makes $20 million in the profit. Like Krieger gets to make his next horror movie, everyone's golden, which I can't see a world in which, I just want so badly for him to be able to do the next weird thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want him to be like sucked into a franchise or something. It's just like, okay, cool. Like your weird, crazy thing like made a bunch of money, so they're like,
did you ever used to watch Whitest Kids You Know?
Yeah.
Oh god, that was like such a staple for us. So I wasn't really surprised that it was as funny as it was and as weird. I guess that's the thing. I should have been more prepared for how funny it would be, right? But I think it's like this. Jordan Peele came from sketch comedy as well, and crushed it in horror. And I think a lot of people are making that comparison that Zach Krieger came from kind of a sketch comedy background. And I was like, to me, it makes all the sense in the world. They're the two most important timing genres, right? Like, it's all about that fucking timing of a joke or when the scare happens, right? How do you control that time within the bit or the scene? So I was like, it makes perfect sense to me that these guys would have this really early grasp on, that feels more advanced than it should, and how they lay out these scenes, man. And what I like about this one is how unafraid it is to just fucking go, because again, it just kept going in these directions that were really kind of throwing me for the loop in the theater. But then afterwards, I was just glad to see him, right? So, like, when we see Richard Brake, we go back to the 50s, right? Or the 70s, whenever the fuck that's supposed to be, right? When the auto industry is collapsing and Detroit's about to, sink. Yeah, and he's, I'm not going nowhere, and he's going to getting fucking tarps and whatever, and we find out he's a fucking criminal, right? In my brain, I was like, why do we need that scene? Just show me the dad, in the fucking dungeon, like that episode of X-Files, Home, right? Like, just give me this fucking family nonstop. And then at the end, I was like, did it really bother me that we took like 5 minutes to just kind of fucking throw an extra layer on this? No. Yep. The movie has a couple of those things, right? So, like, when she runs and tries to get the cops and go back, I was kind of like, why are we doing this fucking bit with the cops that aren't going to help her, right? I was trying to figure out why that needed to be a part of the movie. And then at the end, I was like, did that really bother me? No. So, I mean, I think there's just stuff like that. So, what do you make of, like, this use? Did you think anything about that cop scene when you saw it? Did you get anything out of that bit?
I think all of it. And I have to hand it to him. I have to hand it to one, Zach Kreger, and then I have to also hand it to the production companies and the fact that, like, this is a wide movie, because actually, for as zany as it is, it's way more nuanced and intelligent than most things of this ilk. Purely, I mean, like, you're talking about the Richard Brake stuff. Like, that does not hold your hand, I mean, like, obviously he's like taking these women and raping them and impregnating them. Mm-hmm. You don't see any of that. And
I was actually glad we didn't see that. Yeah. That's what I thought was coming, if you're going to do like a VHS. I was stoked we didn't. I will say, when you cast Richard Brake, who's such an undervalued, like, amazing horror movie guy, I kind of wanted a little more from him, right? The just shooting himself in the head actually is one of those things that, like, I haven't quite digested properly. I thought there was another beat to come, right? And that's something this movie really does. It leaves all these fucking breadcrumbs to more things. Yeah. So I don't know if they are leaving it to where, like, we could easily get a Barbarian 2, right? And I would definitely go see it. But, like, when he rings that bell, who fucking comes in, right? The lady's afraid to go in that room, right? Someone else must be bringing him food. The homeless guy talks about the copy of the copy of the copy, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Where the fuck were all those copies? That was like my biggest. When the movie just cuts to black hard, I was fucking legitimately mad. And it took me a while to back off and be like, that movie gave me so much goodness, I can't be that upset. But not seeing the other mutants really made me upset.
I definitely, because he also says the homeless guy, and I want to get to that again too. He definitely says, when he pulls her out of there the first time, and she's just like in the window, and the guy's like, no, I know she's down there, which is also hilarious. That homeless guy really, I wish I knew the actor's name. I should look that up. He was great. But when he says, he's like, that she's not even the worst thing down there.
Yes.
Like, I was like, oh shit. I thought Justin Long was going to, like, open a fucking door and there was going to be like a bunch of them. And that, for me, that would have.
When they started climbing the water tower, I expected them to look back and just see this fucking flood of white naked monstrosities running down the street. Or for them to go get dragged back to the house and we see more of these things down in the... I was so ready for that. And again, he doesn't owe me that, but I was kind of mad because I'm like, you specifically talked about how many other of these things there are. Yeah. I really am sad they did not pay that off.
Which, I mean, like, look, it's a small movie. And, like,
I get it. I absolutely get it.
Like,
but see, in the moment, I'm in the art moment, right? I'm not thinking a budget. I'm like, this is a movie that's really moving me. And so your hopes go way, way up high. And at the end, I was just like, because I even sat around like it was a fucking Marvel movie. And I was like, for sure, there's going to be a post-credit where we see something else, like, glaring out of there. Nothing. She just fucking saunters back to her car. And it did take me about a half an hour of bitching in the parking lot to, like, come back down.
Well, I think the movie trains you. The movie trains you to just, like, constantly, because the movie is, like, constantly one-upping itself, which is like absolutely so entertaining. I mean, it is. It's like when you're having a really good day and the day keeps getting better and better, and then the day just kind of ends, and, like, you've had an incredible day, but, like, the day has, like, taught you that every 10 minutes something crazy and great is going to happen. And then when it ends, it's a little sad because it's over. I just kept wanting it to go more. I was like, yeah, show me hundreds of these things.
I agree. That could have been a 4-hour movie for how I was feeling in the theater. I was like, just keep dragging me back down there with another Airbnb renter.
The thing is, it's the longer. It's like on the longer end of a horror movie too. It's like 110 minutes. So, but going back to what you were saying about the cops, like again, like it's. I think like if you like, I mean, I don't know if I could make something like this at all. I think it would be a mess. So like the finesse that he has as a director to take all of these things, like the police scene, which I like, I find myself talking about every scene, and maybe if it's not like the cleanest screenplay ever, every scene is done in such like an entertaining and purposeful way that even if on paper these things might look kind of messy, I've talked about the cop scene because it's just like, she's like a homeless lady like kicking down the door. She's like, I gotta get in here. I gotta get in here. It's so entertaining. And you could cut that, but it's also a great beat that, like, while I'm playing Xbox, digesting the movie and talking about it to people, I'm like, oh yeah, I love. She's like, I gotta get in this house. I gotta get in there. The cop's like, lady, get the fuck away from the house. Like,
Well, my buddy's like a very liberal guy, so anytime there's a moment with the cop or the sexual assault, he's like when we're out in the parking lot, he's like, let's go deep on these societal issues. I'm like, I'm not the guy to do that. Like, I'm talking about what I saw in the movie, right? Like, I'm not nearly educated enough to talk about Detroit and police force and whatever. But the most generous read I can have of that scene is that she came there to film this collapsing industry and these people like milking the sadness, right? And then she runs from the homeless guy who's trying to save her life, and then later she's put in that situation, right? Yeah. So this expectation of who people are, which I would say that the movie pays off in a really shockingly touching way with our finale, right? Where there has to be this empathy bridge, even if but for a moment, which is really all it is. So I don't know. It's one of those scenes when I'm watching and I'm like, get on with it. But then you think back and you're like, all right, I mean, it's doing work. That I would agree with you. I don't think it's the world's cleanest screenplay, right? Yeah. Like I think if someone who's like a more by the textbook screenplay, be like, cut that, streamline this, blah, blah, blah. And I think there is something about the freer nature of this that we really cherished, right? So you can't fucking slap it in the face for making weird choices when that's exactly why you're fucking losing your mind in the theater, is that it is just this fucking off-the-rails experience.
I think this is like the anti-JJ Abrams, who like, I think sometimes JJ Abrams, like, he is an extremely talented filmmaker who he will like, I feel like a lot of times I'm watching his movies and I love them in the moment. And then like, because they're so well made, they're really, propulsive. And then the second the movie ends, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, and then it just completely collapses. This, like you said, I don't know if the screenplay is like the cleanest in the world, but like, it's so, like I said, every moment is entertaining. Every beat is kind of captivating. So even if it doesn't, like you said, like it doesn't all connect and there's a ton of like loose ends and interesting things, the experience and each individual scene is so strong that I'm just like, this is just some like weirdo piece of art that is super fascinating. And again, like the fact that this got a wide theatrical release and is like overperforming at the box office, and I desperately want to get to it again, is like, cool. Like, you did something right, which,
well, no, it's this weird thing that we as movie fans sometimes forget, right? Is that there's probably no perfect movie. Like, to me, it's like Jaws is a perfect movie. Like, I've seen that movie 50 times. There's not one frame of that movie I don't like, right? Fine. I'm sure someone doesn't agree with me. There are no fucking perfect movies. And so you're like, all right, every movie has flaws or scenes that don't work or whatever. But how many scenes will you like take with you for the rest of your days? And I'm like, this movie has like 3 or 5 scenes I feel like I will bring up for the rest of my life. Most of the shit I watch today, I feel like is in and out and like almost no retention, right? For like a vast majority of things I watch. This isn't that. And so I think a lot of times as film goers, we're so cynical, and I think it's like the YouTube generation or whatever, right? We're all trained to like, that's wrong. I can feel smart if I say that's wrong. And it's like, there's no right or wrong to any of this shit. There's no
It's
fucking
also
saves the cats or whatever. Like, it's all just fucking theories, right?
Yeah.
Did this movie fucking rock your face in the theater? Absolutely. So,
It's also
take
like
for what it is.
so well made. Just want to give like a little bit of love to both the composer and a Drubik, or I'm gonna butcher everybody's name.
I am the,
So
naked white lady in the basement of name murdering, so
Yeah.
I won't even try.
And Anna Drubrick, her score, and then Zach Cooperstein, I think, who's the
well done.
I think that, don't quote me. I'm gonna yeah, Cooperstein. Yeah, he's a cinematographer. Like the movie is like so like beautifully composed, and it like genuinely is like doing things visually that I haven't seen. You know, some of those like wide angle like POV shots where like, you know, like zooms in on the gun and Justin Long.
Yeah,
and
dude,
Justin
it
Long
had
has
like
the
a
knife
fucking
and,
Dead or Alive fucking just fucking whipping around. That was pretty cool. I love that shit too.
it's great. And you know, I read a little bit about that, and he talked about being inspired by Evil Dead, and I was like, no, I can see that, and I see it in a way that doesn't feel like he's just like riffing on Raimi. Like it doesn't just feel like a copy. I felt like there was like a actual purpose for it to
That's
be
another J.J. Abrams parallel where it's like it feels like he's doing Spielberg karaoke sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? In this movie, it clearly is paying homage to like a different era of these kind of wild, you know, horror movies that were so unpredictable, right? Like imagine being a person who got to see Evil Dead in like its very first year of being out, right? How fucking strange that movie must have appeared when it burst on the scene. This one feels like it was inspired by, but not grifted from, if that makes sense, right? And I know all filmmaking is kind of, you know, riffing on things you saw in other movies and kind of recongealing it into something different. But this one, it felt like its own animal, right? Well, I see all these elements of other movies I like. It felt very original. Right?
There's this like one element that I love, and I love when movies do this, where like there's like a very spooky score for the entire like first part of that movie. But like, you know, it's a kind of a stock horror movie score. But then the second she goes into the basement for the first time, the like synth score starts, which I always like. It makes my skin kind of like crawl, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And it's like the movie, it's like the movie telling you can have fun. Which
you get
like
those
same
hard
with,
nipples like that lady in the basement. Yeah.
This movie reminded me so much of Tusk. It really is like kind of cut. It feels cut from the same cloth as Tusk, not just because Justin Long's in it, but just like wild, like just really bizarre.
Right. It has the same experience watching it. It's just in this one, the craft is so much
better,
more mature than Tusk, I would say. Tusk has like shockingly great performances, I think.
Yeah.
Like Michael Parks is fucking awesome. So you're like, Tusk is awesome for what it is, but this is like that same kind of like weird midnight movie, but the fucking craft of this movie is such a step above of what a lot of these movies end up as, right? You get a lot of these movies like this now where, I fucking love Tusk too. But you get this thing where it's like running out, and you see all these movies now where they're doing like these, like Glorious just came out on Shudder, right? The Glory Hole movie. There's so many like strange ideas that are creeping through, but so few of them have the fucking heft of production that this one feels like.
Yeah.
Even though it's not always, you know, necessarily a dramatically bigger movie than a lot of these other ones that I watch, but you just feel so. And I think that's why when I left the theater, I had that initial reaction of kind of being mad that it didn't go even higher, because I was so captivated. And I was like, you're making such a fucking great movie. And it's that unwinnable battle. You make such a great movie, like, of course we're going to be sad when it's over. So man, I mean, it's just fucking, it's got some amazing elements.
I was really stoked too that like the movie at no point were like characters like bathed in neon, and I say that as someone who like the movie
You're not
I
in
made
for the neon-assance?
No, I'm so fucking over it, and yeah, which is so. And you know what? No, fuck it. Like I got into that before the glut of where
you're a neon hipster, is what you are. I was there before.
Yes.
It was cool.
it's like in the last like 4 years, like people
Yeah.
just discovered like colored lights, and so just everything
Hey
is
man.
just color. Like what are those
It's a
fucking
good trick for low budget people that, the lighting might be shoddy.
yeah,
Just fucking flood, man. Like,
flow some fucking what
hey
are
man.
those Alteras, the
Yeah, right. I'm pretty
yeah.
forgiving on shit like that, man. The thing I hate is the only thing that really will get me to turn a movie off fast is if you're just like everyone just feels bored, right? Like you can feel the boredom of the people making the movie through the screen. Sometimes
Yeah,
that's the shit I can't tolerate.
yeah, I agree. You kind of gotta get zany with it, and
Yeah, and that's
I gotta,
this one you feel like you're watching like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, like fucking cranking all his fucking smoke machines and fire show. Like
well,
you're at a Kiss
it's just
concert. It's like, yeah, let's go.
there's real like weirdo movies coming out, like Resurrection. Like you should watch that. Resurrection is like a
That
weirdo
is
movie
definitely
where it's
on my
just
list. Yeah.
where they just like they let it like get like crazy, so the audience is like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah.
I gotta come back. I gotta come back to
Well,
Tusk
in
for
a
two
world that's
seconds.
flooded with content, that's the way to do it, right? Fucking don't
Yeah,
let them look away.
yeah. I gotta come back to Tusk for 1 second. Just like
Okay.
so, like I saw Tusk when I first moved to LA. Like I was like, so when I like first moved to LA, I was like 17, I think, and I mean, it was like Babe Pig in the City, dude. I was just like running wild.
I remember those days. Yeah.
Yeah, and like so like the prospect of like movie tie-in weed was like very foreign to me. And when Tusk came out, they had two. They had like an indica and a sativa. Mister I have the cases still in my closet. Like, but like it was Mister Tusk and Walrus Yes. And
Yeah.
I bought like an obscene amount of it. And me and my girlfriend at the time, we like were in the at the Burbank 16, and we like parked in that like ever expanding parking garage and just like hotboxed my car until we were basically like
Yeah.
like essentially Rain Man. Just like I was
You're
so
seeing the
high.
numbers fly around. You're like, Jesus H.
Yeah, and like so we're watching Tusk, and just like I mean it's a fucking crazy ass movie as is. And like midway through the movie, like someone behind us starts going like and like it's really trippy. And then like this woman starts screaming, and the lights come on, and like the guy was having a stroke.
Jesus Christ. And you were
Yeah,
stoned watching this?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. So I'm stoned, and they like the AMC employees, like teenagers, like make everybody stay in the theater, and they bring like paramedics and like put this guy on like a board and like pull him out.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
they like give everyone a free pass and just start the movie again. But the whole time I'm just sitting there like you know just so like probably the most stoned I've ever been, just like petrified. So yeah, like I have a soft spot for Tusk because it
Yeah.
is a wild experience.
Fuck yeah, dude. No, all right, we got to get back. So we haven't talked about the real rap, right? Where she gets out, smashes her car into this lady,
Yeah,
and then the homeless guy offers shelter, right?
I've
So
been
I
in here
guess
for
on a
15
twofold, right?
years.
Why the fuck does she want to go back for Justin Long? And two, start us off with this. We get to the homeless guy's abode, right? And he's kind of laying out the backstory of what happened here. Why the fuck did she want to go back to get Justin Long?
Because I think honestly, I mean, I wish she went to go back to get Keith too. I think knowing that like and this is just my read on it. One, I think she's a good person.
Yeah.
And two, I think that knowing that Keith wasn't actually like bad, like Keith was actually like a good person, leads her to believe that Justin Long is actually a good person. So
Yeah.
it's like, this thing in the basement is like butchering all of these good people that need saving. So,
Yeah.
she's a heroine,
Well,
so
that's another good reason for the cop scene, right? It's like, well, no one else is going to fucking do shit, and I'm sick of that.
yeah.
So I love the fucking scene with the homeless gentleman as well. I thought he was just fucking great laying it out. And he's like, she ain't never come in here. And she fucking, when she busts through that wall, that was just fucking righteous, dude. I was actually a little sad he got. I kind of assumed it was coming. But I was sad when the arm got ripped off and he was all fucking dead.
It's again going back to the screenplay. It's just like it's such like an intelligent way, like giving the like most crucial amount of exposition, like what this thing is, to like and like homeless person who's
Yeah.
like presumably kind of insane.
Yeah.
So he
Also,
gets
like
to sort of
90 minutes into the movie.
yeah, it's like just being like, oh yeah, yeah, that's as if it's the most normal thing in the world. Just like it's a
Yeah.
copy of a copy of a copy, and that's what comes
Yeah.
out. And you know, it's just
Also,
like
you're like, how the
okay,
fuck do you know
cool.
all this? Like, so who all knows all these secrets? Although he does say it comes out at night, and clearly someone's going out and scavenging stuff. So yeah, it's like God, he's been living this like fucking quiet place life, hiding from these fucking creatures.
Which is just like a
Uh,
person.
yeah. Well, I mean, she's not a fucking person. Whatever the fuck that thing is.
It's a person. It's just like a person who's been like
I actually thought it was gonna get weirder at the end because I'm like, that's not a person. She's like fucking lifting Justin Long way up off the ground in front of her body like she's fucking Darth Vader. I was like, that's a level of barbaric strength. I guess I still don't know why it's called Barbarian, I guess. I was like, maybe that's it. The barbaric yelp of these ladies, right? Like, we want freedom. Maybe the dad was the barbarian. I don't fucking know. I never figured that out either. But I was like, she's like insanely, shockingly strong and has like these fucking gnarled fingers. I actually thought we were going to get to something where Richard Brake had like made some kind of deal with the devil when Detroit was crumbling. So
what?
that's how weird this movie is I was writing other like weirder endings to this movie in my mind. I'm like, I don't even know what they'll do. I have no idea. But yeah, the other scene that the people in the theater just absolutely lost their shit for was Justin Long talking himself into why he had to throw her off the roof.
Oh.
I mean, I was like, that is about as strong of a choice I've seen in a movie in a long time. That
I'm
fucking
so sorry.
shit. Oh my God, that was so fucking funny. It's horrible. I don't know if it's supposed to be funny. I thought it was fucking funny.
No, it's hilarious.
But then the scene, dude, you should have heard these fucking teenagers in the row behind me when that fucking monstrosity leaps off the building after her. And the angle they got was so fucking funny. Dude, people were losing their shit in the theater. That was a grand slam moment for sure. What did you make of all that?
I I think like going back to all these different tones and like the first act is like the traditional horror movie that you went for, but by the end you're having so much fun that it's just like, all right, yeah, like and it almost goes into parody in a way that like I mean, for me it feels very intentional, but it just gets so crazy. It starts being, they're like running around in the streets, and it kind of feels like kind of like aliens, they're like, you gotta hide in here, like because it's expanded outside of that house,
Yeah.
this homeless guy, and yeah, but like it's just so wacky, and like I inexplicable. I don't know, like I don't know how to like describe it because it's just bizarre, and I desperately want to get back to the theater to see it again.
It's very rare that you don't outrun a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because usually by the time the first act ends, in most movies I watch, you're like, all right, I pretty much see like the steps of where we're going. And it can still be really rewarding to watch, but it's so fucking rare that a movie really leaves me like confounded. And by 100 minutes into the movie, you're like, I have no fucking idea what I'm about to see. I forgot, I fucking died laughing too. And he goes, oh, good, you're alive. I'm saving you. And he started picking her up because the monstrosity caught her and landed on her back and presumably saved her life. And when Justin Long picks her up, he's like, I'm saving you now. I'm so sorry. I fucking was losing my shit.
I was busting out when he's like on top of the water tower and he's just like, but I can live. And he just grabs her by the hair and throws her off.
Just such a piece of, you're like, if you had any illusions, because he had just done this thing like, I don't know if I'm a good person, man, but maybe I can do a good thing, right? And you're like, oh, he's like trying to get a redemption. I'm like, that's going to be hard to pull when we know he's a rapist for the audience, but he's going to try to be heroic and then immediately just fucking slides into another character and throws it up.
You can tell though when he's like running up the stairs, and he's like, come on, and then just like leaving her and
so rapidly. And we forgot to even mention that he fucking shoots her.
Yeah.
So he fucking shoots her, which makes all of this even more arduous for her.
To be fair though, like I didn't read him shooting her as him being like a bad person. Like I definitely
no. He shot her out of fear, but he did also shoot her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's like, that's not your fault. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I get it. But that's like just another fucking check. Also, like, once you shoot her, you should be a little bit more beholden to helping her run up the stairs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they were just going to kill her. I thought they were just going to kill her at that. Boom, done. And then Justin Long was going to be the last one in the tunnel.
I immediately thought the same thing, man. I thought that's where we're going. Obviously, the monstrosity fucking wakes up and fucking squishes his head in. You know, classic old fucking, like, it looks like oatmeal fucking, or not even oatmeal. What was that shit my dad used to, fucking instant grits or whatever it was called?
Yeah.
My dad used to eat this nasty shit that would come in a fucking slop bowl every morning. And that's what it looks like pouring out of the eyeballs, right? And then we get this shockingly endearing moment. That is probably, of all the things in the movie that shocked me, I think I was least prepared for that little emotionality in that final moment, right? Yeah, that
Yeah.
Of Mice and Men moment, right? Where she's checking on her baby to see if she's okay. And she's not mauling her and not attacking her. And even when she puts the gun to that fucking thing's head, she doesn't fucking react violently. She's just a concerned mother who, and this is the other thing, we don't know how far down the road is, right? Is this like a granddaughter of Richard Brake? Is this a great-granddaughter? How many kids has she had to have against her will? Like, we never really got into, like, how the fucking tribal structure of this fucking underground rapist ring goes. So maybe she had a baby and lost it, right? We don't know, but her trying to protect this girl after we've seen her violently murder three other people, I couldn't believe that they actually got me, though. Like, I was fully emotionally invested in that moment.
I think because the movie is, like, for all of the movie is, like, goofy and zany, like, it also is pretty sincere. Like, it doesn't, it's not like, well, that, you know, I keep seeing people talk about Marvel movies and the whole, like, well, that just happened. But, like, no, I mean, the movie, everything that happens is sincere. It's just, you know, it's, like, actually funny, you know?
Yeah.
And so I really think that, you know, for me, it's like a perfect theatrical experience. It's scary, it's funny,
it's just wonderful,
it's sincere, it's bizarre, it's great.
Literally, after I kind of settled it in my mind, the only thing that I don't think I'll ever get over is wanting to see what was worse than her in the basement. My friend made the point it could have been her dad.
That's what I thought. That's kind of what
I was like, that makes perfect sense as well. But I was like, where did these other? That's the one thing I was like, I still feel the pain of that. And again, I don't take that as a critique of the movie. It's just, I literally just didn't want Barbarian to stop. I just wanted to keep being in that world. So all of my gripes I had, I feel like I've absorbed. And the only one that I came away with is like, fuck, I just want Barbarian 2. And I'm with you. I'm like, I don't want him to get snapped up into, I mean, you know, it's a job and a life. If he wants to go make a fucking, you know, $100 million whatever and get his payday, great. But I just don't think you find enough movies like this that are so outside of the boundary, it feels like. And to lose a guy who made that movie to just kind of these more generic studio fares, even assuming he could probably bring his you know, considerable talents to make those movies more interesting as well. I just kind of want to just keep getting, you know, like how Sam Raimi, you talked about him, had his Evil Dead trilogy. I want like the Barbarian trilogy, right? You know,
I don't even know if I want sequels to this.
No,
I just
not
want,
Barbarian, but I want movies like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just keep fucking making this Barbarian style universe of these fucking insane horror movies. Yeah, man, I fucking loved it. I was honestly really, it took me a while to fully digest. That's the other thing too. It took me so long to fucking sit with this movie. So we talked in the parking lot and everyone's like, well, we actually got to go home. So I just sat on my couch in the dark, just like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? I'm having like this intense inner monologue, like screaming at myself, what the fuck was that? Did you like that? I don't know what you know what I mean?
There's so many memorable moments. Like, because I drove to see this, we had to drive back. And really, there wasn't a lot of discourse about the movie because, like, you know, I don't think the movie has as much on its mind as, like, you know, but like but everyone just was quoting it and being like, God, and then this scene, and then this scene, because like everything was entertaining and it was always doing something that I've really never seen. It's not that I've never seen it before. It's just like everything is just so well executed. I mean, we barely even talked about, like, you know, the acting and stuff. Like Bill Skarsgård, like, he's so good in this movie. and he's so creepy and so
You want to know the
embodied.
choice they made that I was like, they're telling us right now this is an unsafe guy? He plugged
Yeah,
his toothbrush in on the bathroom floor.
yeah, of an
I was like,
Airbnb.
only a fucking monster would do that. And so I was like, that's a great little visual cue. Come to find out, he was probably just a nice guy, right? He could have also
Yeah,
been a bad guy. We don't know. But when I saw that toothbrush on the floor, I'm like, that guy cannot be trusted
I just love.
whatsoever.
I love
Even the
I
thing
love
where
the
he's like, I
wine.
waited to open the wine so that you would know I didn't drug you. I was like, what? I was like, don't fucking drink that wine. What are you doing?
Like, I'll go out and get your stuff because I have a raincoat and you don't. It's just like he just embodies like the nice guy like
Yeah.
so well, and you kind
But
of get a
still
little bit
is
of
terrifying.
yes, his eyes, dude. He's got crazy
Yeah.
ass eyes. He 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 does
It's
that
your
thing
face.
where
It's something about your face. I can't.
well, he can make himself go wall-eyed, which was like a lot of like Pennywise going wall-eyed in it was he just can do that.
Yeah.
And he was doing it a little bit. Like he would just be talking to her and his eyes were going wide. And the person I was with turned to me and he's like, "Is that the clown from It?" And I was like, "It is." Like,
I've seen that fucking horrifying face before.
yeah, those eyes, yeah. But like you're like immediately like, "Oh shit, this guy's up to no good."
Yeah.
But it just yeah. It really like it's a strange cast too. Like if you
Yeah.
just look at the cast, like it's like what is going on with this? And it is. It's just
Yeah.
this is like a relic. Like even more so, I see a lot of people talking about like *Malignant* as like a cult classic movie, but I genuinely believe that this one will like be a cult classic movie because there's just really
Yeah.
nothing like it.
I don't think that you always need to like have movies fight like they're Pokemon, but to me, this one achieves so much more for me than
Yeah,
*Malignant* did. *Malignant* was just like a pretty by the book movie, I felt like, and then like, oh, weird, like last little bit. This one was like a really unique experience to watch, I felt like, right? And I've seen
yeah,
other, I mean, you've seen like I've seen all manner of weird fucking movies in the theater, right? And had those experiences, but this is like right up there with like that, Antichrist and all these other fucking like weird, like visceral heart pounding experiences in the theater. And yeah, man, I think it's one of those like this is like a for real, if they still do midnight movies, this is gonna be like the king of that for the next couple years, I feel like.
yeah. Just real like weirdo shit. Like just very. It's just like it's every. Yeah, this I just can never get over the moment where they're in the pit and she just goes, she wants you to be her baby, and then you just like
Yeah.
look up and then there's
What?
the bottle coming down.
that and it has her fucking hairs ripped like all wrapped all around the fucking
Yeah.
nipple.
Because at that point you're just like what am I what am I watching right now? I'm watching a wide release like 20th or I guess 20th Century Studios movie.
Yeah.
Like I'm used to seeing that. Like this for me, this is like in less capable hands would be like a Shudder movie of the week.
Yeah, I mean that's the like that moment, right, is a really fun one to think about as kind of the like microcosm of the whole movie where you're like, are we about to just get into this weird sexual deviant movie? Like you literally never knew where the fuck it was going, which I will cherish this movie going experience for a long, long time for sure, man. Well that's
also
it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
That's not
Before
it.
you leave, yeah, it's also produced like an incredible amount of like poster art, which like they keep popping up,
Yes.
and I'm like,
Yes.
these I love.
I've been
For me, I love.
seeing those on your stories, yeah.
Yeah, I want everyone I know to watch this movie and be horrified. But
Yeah.
like, I love when movies that are like iconic enough that it just feels like the artist community just continues to produce art for
Yeah.
them.
When you
I remember-
inspire other artists, man, that's always
Yeah,
a
that's the
fucking
best.
wonderful thing.
That's how
Yeah,
you. That's
for
how
sure.
you know you got a winner.
Yeah, for sure, man. All right, well, that is it now. Go look up this awesome art. Make sure you go see Barbarian. If you've listened this far, I'm assuming you probably saw it and also loved it. Thanks, man, for coming on. You might hear
Yeah,
Josh
thanks, man.
coming up soon on the October Mega Marathon. We've been bandying about some options for that. Make sure you go watch Josh's film, I Trapped the Devil. Where is that? What is that playing on right now? You can buy it.
I have no idea. I have no.
You don't just fucking track your own movie like it's a
No.
lost child.
It was on Hulu, but I don't think it is anymore. Because
You know what?
I'll see people.
I think it's on the IFC channel that I have on my Amazon.
Yeah.
IFC Unlimited, I think, has it. But yeah.
I don't have any streaming services, so I have no idea. I have no...
The best way to watch it is go buy I Trapped the Devil. You can thank us later.
Thank you.
We talked about that way back in the back catalog. So, guys, be prepared for the October Mega Marathon. Ratings, reviews, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And we will see you back later this week with another one of Alex's birthday movies. So, thanks again, Josh.
Thanks, guys. I will see you October.
That's right. Bye, guys.